We got more weights and fish. Max Wilson crushes the Sioux, and an underwater walleye video you will not believe. We got that and more coming up right now in Target Walleye's Top 5 presented by Seafoam. Let's dive on in. Well, we've got more weights and fish, sort of, although this time instead of the lead variety, some dude was caught allegedly stuffing the au natural kind of weight into fish. He was allegedly caught stuffing live fish into his walleyes in an attempt to add weight to them on Lake Erie, this time out of New York, to try to take the top spot in that tournament, which was a $14,500 prize.
I suspect foul play.
But somebody saw him doing it, and the tournament director cut open the fish and found undigested fish in the walleye's belly. I'm going to read this so I don't misquote it. New York State DEC officers were called in, and they examined the fish that, name removed, numbnuts, presented for weigh-in to find that there were undigested, cut-up fish stuffed into the fish's mouths and bellies. They confiscated the fish, and their investigation is still ongoing. And apparently, those undigested fish, which I think it was, what was it, a white bass and a 12-inch walleye that was cut in half because it was too long, so the tail would have been hanging out the walleye's mouth instead. Apparently, those undigested fish had hook holes in their lips, which was further suggesting that those fish were caught by numbnuts on that day of the tournament, and then he decided to insert them into his walleyes. Allegedly.
Allegedly took place.
Believe it or not, there were multiple people that were caught allegedly cheating in this single Lake Erie event, and they've all been banned for life. Good riddance. Get them out of here. You know that they're not going to be able to show up at any tournament out there without people running them out of town. There we go. Leave it to a few bad apples, aka morons, to ruin it for the rest of us when it's such a small population of bozos doing this kind of shenanigans. But you know what? Let's move on to somebody who doesn't need the extra weight to win the top prize in a giant walleye derby. The NWT's not in Kansas anymore, as you can see. The last NWT stop was out of Sault Ste. Marie on the St. Mary's River, which connects Lake Superior and Lake Huron. And obviously, those pro rigs were not the biggest boats on the water. Now, there's a ton of water to cover, with some pros making up to 100+ mile runs one way just to get to their fishing spot that day. But someone always tracks him down, and this time that someone was Max Wilson, who won by over 8 pounds. That's a huge margin. He sacked up 10 fish for over 65 pounds, over a 6.5 pound average per fish over 2 days, to take home prizes and cash totaling about $89,000. Not bad for a couple days of work. I mean, I seriously cannot imagine what that moment would feel like, winning an $89,000 prize, but also coming on top of a stacked field and being the best angler over those 2 days. But if I had to guess, these couple of pictures are the only thing I can think of that would do that feeling justice. Max caught the majority of his fish live scoping shallow rock humps. He was looking for a specific type of rock. He didn't necessarily say what it is because he's probably got more tournaments to win out there in the future. But he was using a 1-2 punch with live scope of a custom chrome and orange number 7 jigging wrap, and then the lightest 3/8 ounce Walleye Nation Creations death jig, which he would slowly reel right in front of those fish's face and get him to pounce and react on it. Now, if you've never seen one of those death jigs before, they are nasty. You don't have to have live scope to catch fish with them, but obviously it helps. It reminds me of somebody taking a whole bunch of really good baits and combining them into one. You got like a jig, a bottom bouncer, spinner, crawler, harness, slow death rig, all into one hybrid fish catcher. Seriously impressive finish, man. Big congrats on closing it out. over a 2-day derby and coming out on top. Oh, and by the way, Max doesn't know this, but I have a little mole in the NWT, and I was able to get my hands on some secret footage, video footage, of his winning spot. He probably doesn't want me to share it, but we're gonna. Which brings us to the next item. Words can't even describe the kind of pressure that these folks feel when they're heading out leading on the final day of an NWT event. Because when you're going out in the lead, it's almost like it's yours to lose and not yours to win. But Max Wilson said all of his nerves went away when he rolled into his spot on the final day, dropped down his live scope, and there was 60 fish waiting for him on his screen.
60!
60.
And by the sounds of it, this absolutely wild video from BC Fishing on YouTube is probably exactly what Max's secret rock humps look like. Let's roll this baby. Wild! I don't even know what to say other than that's usually exactly what everybody says their spot looked like during pre-fishing. So pretty incredible for Max to stay on something juicy similar to that on game day and get it done. Speaking of live scope, check out these wild screenshots from Michael Riedel in Minnesota. And this is actually the older LVS 32 live scope transducer, which obviously still does just fine. A lot of folks in the comments were guessing that it was a 50 Studebaker, and I don't know about that, but I do know a couple of fellas who probably wish they had this type of technology back in like 2001.
Dude, where's my car? Where's your car, dude?
As if us stateside need another excuse or reason to want to go up fishing in Canada, now Tim Hortons has a drive-through or a boat-through on Lake Scugog in Ontario. I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick up that classic Timmies double-double, because it sounds like they're going to only be offering cold brews and ice drinks, but you know what? Sign me up, man.
Are you registered at Tim Hortons?
That wraps up this week's Top 5, and a big shout out to Seafoam for keeping us running smooth and making this fun video series possible. If you want more walleye-related content like this, sign up for our free Target Walleye emails at targetwalleye.com, and I'll see you back in 7.